Hey, what's up? My name is Jasmine, and this is Popcorn and Slush movie reviews, where we will be reviewing the movie Elemental by Disney. We will look at the plots, the characters, different lessons that were learned. Is this movie for kids, or can adults learn something too, or is it just for everybody as well? Sometimes when I watch children's movies, a lot of times I feel like the concepts go over the head of a child and is more for adults, or even some of the different agendas that are provided in the movies. So let's talk about the movie Elemental. Here we go. So let's start with first impressions. So from the beginning, when I first saw the trailer, I was intrigued. I wanted to see the movie because it was just a fresh concept that Disney came out with not just females, males, the princess, the prince, Barbie, all those different things. I guess Barbie's not Disney, but pretty much those concepts of actual people and monsters and things like that. But now this is with the elements, things that we as individuals deal with every day on a daily basis, and putting them in the concept of them being actual groups of people. Not, for example, like black people, white people, different ethnicities of people, but as in their elements. So that was a really cool concept, and I thought it was cool to show that how different elements could come together and still need each other and build with each other. So I thought that first impression of that was really, really good. It kind of made me think about the show Captain Planet. I don't know if anybody watched Captain Planet, but like the song Captain Planet, where you talk about the different elements, because to be honest, I forgot what the elements were. So in the movie, I'm like, oh, the fire, oh, the water, oh, the tree, the earth, oh, the wind. Okay. It makes sense. Got it. But also really interested in how they put together where fire would live, which was like in the steel area, because as you know, anything fire touches, it could catch on fire. Water lived in a beautiful high rise. And then the clouds, I forget where the clouds lived, but then the trees, they lived in like the brownstones or like the townhouses in the city. And it was interesting how each group had their own area that they actually lived in. So that was really, really cool. So first impressions, really, really good. Good start, good depiction on the different elements and where would they live. And then I also liked how they looked. It was really like innocent, but it was really cool as well. So plot. What was the plot of the actual movie? Well, Disney says that the plot of the actual movie is, and I'm reading verbatim from Google, okay, in a city where fire, water, land, and air reside, residents live together. A fury young woman and a go with the flow guy discover something elemental. How much they actually have in common. Now, was that the plot that I actually got out this movie? No, not really. On one level, it was a lot of, you could kind of relate on how people segregate themselves into certain areas, honestly, just based on the commonalities they have in their communities. And so and then it goes into like those differences and how people get rooted in those differences and don't see the commonalities that they have with other people, just because of that long-standing like dislike of the other ones. And it was interesting because of course water can put out fire, so of course fire wouldn't like water, water wouldn't like fire. The elements, nobody would like, in general, it just came off as like nobody should like fire, just because fire can burn up fire can burn up wood and it can evaporate water. So you would think that, okay, these elements and these things don't actually mix, which is primarily what it was portrayed. But on another level, what I took out of it, and which we'll discuss a little bit later, is like the love that a child can have for their father, or that father-daughter relationship that's there. Because Water didn't have a dad, so you know, he longed for that loving, but Water was a very loving individual. So it's a whole lot of different concepts that we're gonna get into in this movie, and we're gonna talk about. because it hit me hard. Like, honestly, by the end of the movie, I was crying like boohoo tears because it hit home for me. And we'll talk about it later. But for the plot, they say it's about how commonalities come and how they were able to get those common things together. What I took from it was a daughter's deep love for her father, and then the dislike that we can have in different communities and not fully understand that we all have we all have an experience, we all grow up a certain way, and we've been done wrong by different groups of people, but that doesn't negate that we can all have a commonality in something, and that we all need each other in some form or fashion. So that was my plot summary. All right, the lessons that were learned, or the lessons that I actually got out of this movie. So the first lesson that I got out of this movie, and I was honestly talking to my brother about this the other day, really, was about the lesson of emotions. So in the movie, Ember, which is the young lady who is the main character of the movie, Ember, she was raised by her mom and dad, and the parents came from a country because I guess their house had gotten burned down or something, so they just wanted to start a new life in a new land. So because of that, they left to come to Elemental City, and the father left his family, the mom left her family, and pretty much when they came to Elemental, the mom was already pregnant. So in raising their daughter, what they instilled in her was that pride of the dad building everything from the ground up, not nobody wanting them to be around, and they just building themselves from the ground up. And he was able to build a store for his community that everybody knew, that everybody could congregate at. So he kept reiterating and built and putting into her the importance of this shop, the importance of what this shop was to do, and him leaving it to her. But for Ember, the emotional part about it was that she felt the pressure to make him proud, and the pressure, but she had a temper. And something that when Water and her met, something that Water said that was super impactful was that he said he rarely gets mad, but when he does, he has to actually look to see, well, why am I getting mad? Why am I being so emotional about this one thing? And it's a signification, or it's signaling something in life that's going on that you need to take a note of, and that you need to actually like look at and see what's going on, because it's you're harboring it, you're internalizing it. And honestly, that triggered to think about things about today, on how we get so emotional and so stuck in certain things, and not really identifying, well, why am I so emotional about this topic? What happened in my childhood or in my life that got me to that point? And so it was a really good concept, I feel, in a movie, that was a lesson that was learned. Like, hey, whenever you get in certain situations or things like that, think about why am I getting so angry about this? Because it could signal something else. And in the movie, what it signaled for Ember was that she ultimately was putting so much pressure to appease her dad and to take over that shop, when honestly that wasn't something that she really wanted to do. She wanted to do other stuff, but she felt like she owed it to her father because he sacrificed so much to come to that city and give them a better life. And a lot of people can relate to that, especially like people who have come, who parents have migrated to a country to where now they are they've migrated to America, to where now they want a better life for their children, and they've built something to where they feel like their children should take that on, when ultimately the child may not want to do that. And even me, as being just growing up in America in general, and my parents having this idea of what they wanted me to be, and me following that dream, but me not never standing back to think to myself what it is ultimately that I wanted to be or I wanted to do. So it made me think about my own life as well, about what is it that you actually wanted to do in life, versus what you ended up doing. So that was a really good lesson, a concept that I got out of that. Another good lesson that was the love that you can have for your dad. For me, I grew up being a daddy's girl. I loved everything about my dad. And my dad passed away in '08 from cancer. So I guess that's why this movie hits me a little bit harder, because she wanted to make her dad so proud of everything that she did. And that's honestly how I live my life, just wanting to make my dad proud in whatever I did. And so at the end of the movie, when she paid her dad the utmost respect by bowing, their customary bow that they did, that just took me out, because he respected and he gave her that same bow. And in the movie, in the beginning of the movie, the dad went back and looked at, like, when he left his country to come to the elemental city, he did the honorary bow to his father, but his father did not return that bow. And so he just felt so like sad about that ever since, because he never got to go back to the country to see his parents. So now he explained that to his daughter, of that honor that you have as a parent, and she respected that at the end of the day. And what was even more awesome is when she finally had the courage to tell her dad what she wanted to do, he said, "It's okay. I want you to follow your dream. I want you to do what you want to do. I built this shop for our family, but I want you to pursue that, and I respect that for you." And like, that's so powerful. And hopefully that parents that have taken their children to see this movie have also got those messages and those concepts, to where it's like, you can expose your child to a lot of different things, but let them find their way, let them find their own journey. And don't try to pressure them into doing certain things that you feel like would be better off for them later on, because the world is different from when I grew up, when my parents grew up, to where it's so many different ways that you can make a career and make money. But the most important thing is that you love what you do, because it's too many of us out here living dreams that we are unhappy with. But that's my diatribe. Back to the movie. So that was very powerful that she was able to do the bow and him just take it all in. So those are the lessons that I got out of them. Now, is this movie kid friendly, adult friendly, or can everybody go see it? Honestly, I feel like everybody can go see this movie, because it is a movie for kids, for adults. I feel like as an adult, I got far more out of it than I feel like a child would get out of that. When I asked my cousin, and she's about 13 years old, about what she got out of the movie, she pretty much said she learned about discrimination. So I'm like, that wasn't the concept of the movie, but okay. But that's what she got out of it. So for me, I looked for the deeper meaning of what they wanted us to get out of this movie, and that was pretty powerful for me. So is it kid friendly, adult friendly? I think it's a little bit a mix of both, but honestly, I feel like the concepts hit harder for adults. And last but not least, well, these are what I call my jazzy whys. Like, I'm one of those people who watch movies and I will sit and talk through the whole thing and ask questions like, why they do that? What they do that for? What this got to do with this? Where did this song come from? So this portion of the channel will be talking about my jazzy whys. So it's very, I guess, in the world we live in right now, we're empowering more women. And we want men to show more emotion. So to me, that concept was thoroughly through, in and out, this whole movie, where the woman, which is Ember, she was super powerful, super strong. She's more of a suck it up and deal with it type broad, whereas Water was more sensitive, more into his emotions. I mean, he was the male, but then he's also water, so it's kind of like it made sense. Like, he's water, he has to cry a lot, he has to be in a family that's very emotional because he's water. But pretty much in that concept that we're putting out into the world, meaning like more strong women, more emotional men. But maybe I'm just looking too much into it, but that's something that I gathered. Oh, another thing I noticed is, like, when they were entering the country, they had to go through something a little bit like customs. And so the customs agent was a tree representing land. And so when the dad said what his name was, of course the tree trunk couldn't pronounce it. So he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna call you Nels. And I forget what he wanted to call him. Maybe it was Ashes or something like that. He was like, Stamp, that's it. And it's interesting because in life, when we don't actually know how to pronounce people's names, we want them to give us a shortcut name versus just trying to learn how to pronounce their name. So I thought that was interesting in how they put that in the movie. And in the beginning of the movie, the parents didn't speak any English whatsoever. And then eventually they started speaking it. But I guess that's what happens a lot of times in America, where people come with their language from where they're from, and then eventually they learn English. But that is the jazzy whys. So I didn't have that many whys, but normally in movies I got a lot of whys. Next video, it'll be a lot of whys. So next on the agenda is the length of the movie, or what I like to call the sleep factor. How many times do you fall asleep when you're watching this movie? So when I actually sat down and watched the movie into its in full length, I didn't fall asleep at all, but I did watch it in the daytime. But every time I tried to watch it at night, I fell asleep every time. So it took me about 4 times, but then once I watched it in the daytime, it was good. So it's a very good movie if you have time and you aren't tired when you're watching it. Originality, the concept, again, I said it was super original. It was really good. I thought it was a really good original movie with the characters. It definitely relates to the outside world. It's very relatable. So one thing that is relatable on, like the parents, how they sacrifice so much for their daughter to live a better life in this elemental city, how they strived in order to put in her that pride in her being fire, that pride in her community, and the pride in her father building this business from the ground up. So that's very relatable to everyday living in society. Another one was just living in a society to where people already have stereotypes and preconceived notions about who you are just based on what you are. And in this case, in a movie, just based on being a certain element that you might not have encountered that person whatsoever, but you already have a preconceived notion of what you think that person is, and not fully understanding like how each one can help each other. So that is very relatable into the world we live in today. And then also just overarching, like when they first walk into this city, they're just in awe of it because it's elemental city. It's a city that's inclusive, that's included for everyone, that everyone can thrive at. But as the fire couple started to go to the looking for somewhere to stay and trying to build their own in the beginning, no one would accept them. No one would let them do anything. It was more so segregated into each part of town, to where by the end of the movie though, water and all different other elements were able to come and shop at the store, and that it just broke those barriers. And I think that was awesome concept, and which is also relatable because there are several communities in the United States that are very inclusive, that are very like everybody, each one teach one, everybody helps, and then for the most part everybody just lives in their own areas. But I thought that was very relatable as well. And in conclusion, I give this movie overall a 10 out of 10. I think the characters were awesome. I think the concepts in the movie were really good. And I think that this is a movie that everyone should go and watch. So the next movie I will be reviewing is called Turning Red. The movie came out last year, but I see it all the time. I mean, they have whole areas in Disney dedicated to it. So we'll be checking out Turning Red. All right. It has been awesome reviewing this movie, and hope you come back to check out some new thoughts and ideas. Put in any of the comments about any thoughts that you had about the movie, and we can chat about it. All right, see you guys later.